Welcome back to Buckets WNBA edition. I'm your host, Jim Turvey. I was out last episode. We got Brian Fonseca in, came in, hosted, killed it with Dano. I'm back now. It's a Friday. You know what that means, Family Friday. So we had to get Dani Bar-Lavi back in. Dani, the second time on the show. Glad to have you back. We got big old slate. We're going to talk a little international ball potentially at the end if there's time. How are things going? It hasn't been that long since you've been on the pod, and it's been minutes since we've texted. So how are things going?
Yeah, and we were literally just speaking before we hit record. But yeah, I'm good. Happy to be here. It's been a good couple of weeks betting on the W for me, and also betting on like Eurobasket, which has been. I was talking about this yesterday that it kind of felt like Eurobasket came around. I kind of got hot on props there, and then that kind of bled back over into the W where I had been kind of slumping, and I feel like everyone's kind of been slumping. But yeah, feeling great right now. Glad to be here. I challenge you saying that you're glad to have me, because when you texted me asking me to be on the show, you said if the last guy I could possibly ask or something like that doesn't come on.
Yes, I was going through the action roster, and I was like, okay, the action roster. It was supposed to be an action roster week, so I went through the whole roster. Everyone's on vacation. It's perfect time. NBA just ended. I think a lot of people are tapped out for this week. So
Makes
I said,
sense.
yeah, you are my extreme backup plan. Offense
I'm
intended.
I know that ultimate is last, penultimate is second to last. I'm your post ultimate choice.
You're after last.
Yeah.
Post ultimate's a sweet word. We have to bring that into the vocabulary here. We have an excellent slate of games. We have 5-game slate for Friday, so we're obviously gonna break that down. But real quick, as a reminder, our brand new, well, they're not even brand new anymore. Our couple months in, WNBA projections are available in the Action Network app. If you've gotten this far in the season, you haven't checked them out. Really suggest going over there into the app, checking them out. So if you're looking for an edge betting sides, totals, or player props, Action Pro projections are a perfect tool for your toolbox this summer. If you aren't yet an Action Pro subscriber, you can get $20 off an annual subscription right now. Just visit actionnetwork.com/pro to sign up. That is $20 off the annual subscription price at actionnetwork.com/pro. With that in mind, Dani, let's go through this slate. I put in numbers here earlier. I'm going to make sure these are up to date as we record. They might not be up to date when people listen, but we want to get them the most up to date that we possibly can. So, first game of the day that we have is, I think maybe the most interesting game. Well, they're all interesting, but this one kind of pops. It's Atlanta -1 hosting the Lynx. The total there is 156.5. The other 7:30 game is Indiana -4 at Dallas. Total there is 169.5. That total has come down a bunch, probably because Caitlin Clark missed tonight, thinking that maybe she will not play tomorrow as well. Then we have a trio of 10 p.m. games, highlighted definitely by the game of the late night is Liberty -1.5 at Phoenix. Total there is 167. We have Seattle -19 hosting the Sun with a total of 156.5. And then the final game, also in that 10 o'clock slot, Valkyries -8.5 hosting the Sky. Total there is 157.5. So I've got a bunch of best bets. I'm sure you've got a bunch of best bets. Let's each just rattle off our individual best bets, and then we can kind of go game by game, and we'll cover those bets as we go through them. So you want to rattle off your best bets for the Friday slate?
For sure, yeah. I have them listed by game. I'll do my best to just glance through them. I started with New York at Phoenix for some reason, which is weird because it's one of the 10 p.m. games. But hey, it's New York. They're the marquee team.
True.
I really do lean Phoenix in this game. New York is just. We'll talk about reasoning later. My bad.
Yeah. Just rattle off the bets, and then we'll come back.
Phoenix money line at plus money. I'm liking. For the Minnesota-Atlanta game, I'm liking Alicia Gray under 22.5 points and assists. In Indiana-Dallas, I am pivoting off the marquee matchup of Paige Beckers versus either Caitlin Clark or Caitlin Clark's ghost, and playing Kelsey Mitchell over 17.5 points and over 1.5 threes. In Connecticut and Seattle, we got a fun one that we kind of texted about before, looking at a little reverse correlation parlay, a little reverse Corey, which is going to be Skylar Diggins under 19.5 points, along with the Seattle spread. And I know that you have another little piece of that you want to add in. Valk Sky, my favorite bets for that, I'm keeping it real simple, is just Valk spread and the full game under. Obviously, you could also look at Sky team total under if you have access to that, combining both edges.
Love it. I love that you have one for every game. I have one for most games, but I don't think I have every single one. So what I've got for my best bets, I've got Kalia Copper points escalator, Skylar Diggins Smith. This was so funny. We'll get into it when we get into the cap, but very similar mindsets here. Under points over assists. I like parlaying those together. Brianna Stewart over 6.5 rebounds. Brittany Griner under 9.5 points. And then I'm with you on the Valkyries minus 8.5. So let's start with that marquee New York game. It was first on your billing. It is, I would say, especially if Fee is going to be out, it'll be the game of the night. Yep. Phoenix is taking a little bit of money. You said that your best bet here is the Phoenix money line. What's your kind of breakdown of this game as a whole?
Yeah, as I almost automatically started saying when we were just listing these, Phoenix, the vibes are just really rolling with this team, both on the court and off. They've continued to exceed expectations. I kind of thought that they would cool off by now, but they've continued to really look great for a team that is like an amazing big three, and then a bunch of players that no one's ever heard of, and also Sammy Wickham. No disrespect to Sammy. But yeah, New York's still missing Jonquel, and they are missing her really badly. Sabrina, if she plays, hasn't been quite looking right. I know she's been dealing with some neck issues. She can't really turn her head, she's seeing. So yeah, New York's on the struggle bus. They're really vulnerable right now after looking like absolute, unstoppable force at the beginning of the season. Yeah, as you said, also, I really like that Stewie rebounds angle that you were talking about. That's another way to play this. That's really great.
Yeah, I'm with you on leading on the Phoenix side of things, and it kind of plays into the Kalia Copper here. So Kalia Copper, I'm on her points escalator here. So the team as a whole, Phoenix, this is a great rest spot. Unless you could wonder if it's a little bit of a rest spot. They haven't played since the 21st, so they'll have had almost a full week off. And when Copper and the Mercury last played, she had her highest usage game of the season so far. She only played in 3 games. She played just 23 minutes in that last game, but this is a perfect game to kind of take that minutes limit off a little bit. Should be a really close game. I'm with you, Dani. The Liberty do not look like they looked like we were on. I can't remember how long ago it was now, but I think Dano and I were talking about could this team go undefeated? They've now lost several games, and they really do look human without Jonquel Jones. Now they're also missing Leonie Phoebish, who's not there, and honestly a pretty pivotal part of. She probably would draw the Copper assignment. Yep. If the Liberty were fully healthy. As you said, Sabrina looks a little bit dinged up. Stewie, however, looks great. So that's the other part of this. Games without Jonquel Jones, where she either didn't play or left early. She left 2 games early. Stewie's rebounds have been at 7, 11, 7, 5, and 3, but then 9 and 10. So she's cleared that in 5 of the 7 games that Jonquel has missed all of or a part of. Phoenix allows the 5th most rebounds per game as a whole as well. So I think we honestly, there's a little bit of a script here. If you want to kind of I think we're going to look at a different game for a game script, same game parlay. But if you're looking at Copper points, Stewie rebounds, and a Phoenix money line, I don't mind putting kind of all of our bets together. I don't think the Liberty have a great matchup for Copper with Phoebich overseas. I think she's a little too big for Natasha Cloud, a little too quick for Candy Burke, who has been excellent in that starting role. But I mean, Kalia Copper has looked very good, scoring efficiently since she came back in this lineup, and she's only getting more comfortable. This will be her 4th game with these new teammates she has, and like I said, her last game was by far her best. So I'm beyond that escalator there.
Her scoring per minute
would be awesome. Final thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, cause scoring per minute or per possession or however you want to dice it in her limited minutes. I think that the books have hung her at 12.5, 14.5, 15.5 these first few games back. And she's either cleared that or come pretty close to clearing that without playing more than 20 minutes yet, I think.
Yeah, she just got to 23 in the last game, and that was the highest of the season. I could honestly see her, when I'll be doing my projections for Roto Grinders after we get off this call, I'll probably have her at 20, 29, and I think there's even a ceiling to that where she gets all the way up to 30 in what should be a really good, fun, close game.
I see it.
Let's go to the second best game. Let's go to Minnesota, Atlanta. So your best bet here is Alicia Gray prop. I don't think I have a specific best bet in this game, but I want to hear about. Oh wait, I do. I have the Brittany Griner one. So talk to me about Gray. We're both on unders. It makes sense. Minnesota Lynx defense is that part of the cap?
Oh, that's the entire cap. I've been on leash overs all season. People in the Bet She Wins Discord can attest to that. I have been like spamming her 20 plus points along with Ryan's 20 plus points, just hoping that one of the two of them hits and we get profit there. But yeah, they finally hiked Leash's points prop up to 18.5. It's been 16.5 or 17.5 most games. She's been averaging 20 plus points basically the entire season. And I always love. It's always so kismet when this happens. When like the books will finally catch up to a season-long trend of Alicia is scoring more, but do it against like the worst opponent possible.
Yep.
Lynx are the number one team in defending above the break threes in the WNBA. That's a very big part of this cap. Above the break threes are accounting for 52% of Leisha's points this season.
Wow.
Yeah. They're also number one in defending in transition. Transition accounts for 20% of Leash's points. They're also allowing the third least opponent free throw attempts in the league per possession. Free throws account for another 19% of Leash's points. So, I mean, the defensive profile here, even if he doesn't play, because, you know, the rest of the supporting cast is also super locked in. They're a system defense. It's just really a perfect storm matchup to slow down this player who is, you know, Leisha's one of my favorite players. She has been crushing her points props all season. I really like the pivot here, and Lynx are also holding opponents to the second fewest assists per game in the league this season. So yeah, add assists on there, get that to 22.5 P plus A points and assists. Love it.
We have had a lot of smart people on the show give out a lot of smart bets. That might be my favorite cap we've ever had on this. The breakdown
Love
by
that.
like spot on the floor was so good because
I want to shout out propsmadness.com for that data. They are excellent with that stuff. They've become super integral to my capping. Love them.
That is awesome. The above the break stuff is so perfect because when you watch the game, that is like the shot that when I conjure Alicia Gray in my mind, she's pulling up from like above the break three, or she's going to the basket finishing in one. It's great to get the numbers that support exactly that and know that the Lynx are a perfect defense to shut that down. So I'll definitely be joining on that. I absolutely love that cap. My player prop here is an under. I'm going with Brittany Griner. So this is kind of a recency thing, and recency can be tricky. You want to really make sure you're not just getting distorted numbers here with foul trouble or players in that were out. I think there is something to this. So Griner's only averaging 6 points per game in the last 7 games. She's only averaging 20.9 minutes in general. Her minutes have been cut down and her usage has been cut way down. This seems like, arbitrary endpoint, and it's semi-arbitrary, but 8 games ago is when Jordan Canada returned. And the Atlanta bench, Tahina Paopao, Naz Hillman, Nia Coffey, are all playing really well. So it's kind of flattening the minutes for a player like Griner. She's kind of been the odd one out of the starting lineup who's seen her minutes eaten into and her usage as well. She's taking She's taking fewer than 5 field goal attempts a game during that stretch. It's not just she's just had a bad shooting stretch. She really is being de-emphasized in the offense pretty notably. And that's, again, that correlates with when Jordan Canada came back. So now it's a tough matchup against Minnesota. Last season in 3 games against the Lynx, she shot 10 for 33 from the field against them. So even if she gets up to 8 or 9 field goal attempts, I think there's still pretty decent range to go under this 9.5 on Griner here. The books have accounted for some of the recent slip in usage, but I don't think quite enough, especially against a really good defense. So we got pair unders in for our Atlanta props, even though, do you have a side that you lean towards on this Atlanta-Minnesota game? I mean, the big thing is we don't know the news with Fee yet.
Looking at the FanDuel props, it kind of feels like they're assuming that Fee's going to play just because they have, they've been upping like Courtney Williams and Kayla McBride props to like 15.5 each, and they're down at, I think, like 14.5 and 12.5 this game. So part of me is like, it feels like they know something, but I also am like, we're both super tapped into this league, and I don't know how they would know something that we wouldn't. But like I am, because of that, leaning towards Fia's playing, and because of that leaning towards the Lynx, but I wouldn't actually, pull on anything until we knew for sure whether or not she was in. And by that time, if she was in, there probably wouldn't be value on Minnesota anymore. So ultimately, I probably won't end up on a side in this game. But Minnesota would be Atlanta's been so impressive, but Minnesota is just when complete an entirely different class of team.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's interesting because we have two superstars that are questionable for Friday. I mean, Caitlin, we probably won't get the news till later on because she missed today. They're playing on a back-to-back. These are the two teams that are going to meet in the Commissioner's Cup final early next week. There's some logic to saying, hey, let's just get the players to this important game healthy. I think that probably makes more sense from the Minnesota side of things. But this is a Minnesota game. This Minnesota-Atlanta game is a pretty big game. I don't know if they would necessarily be up against each other seeding-wise at the end of the season, but it's two of the top 4 or 5 teams in the league matching up. I don't think Fee would really take like, hey, let's rest you up until we get to the Commissioner's Cup. I think if she's healthy, she's going to want to be out there. For Caitlin, I mean, the Fever just dropped another game. They're below 500 now. They can't afford, this is a Dallas team that isn't all that great, but you can't take anything for granted in this league, really, unless you're playing the Sun, probably. So, so I think if Caitlin is good to go, I think it makes sense for her to be in there. Let's use that as a natural transition.
I was just going to say, with Caitlin's availability, and I think we're transitioning into this game, if I'm not mistaken, but I would be pretty shocked to see Caitlin sit. It kind of feels like my sense of it is just that they were resting her tonight so she could play tomorrow. That's what it felt like to me. They want her fresh to play Paige. It's like the marquee sophomore versus rookie matchup of the season. And also, I don't think Caitlin is going to want to be accused of ducking Paige. I don't think she wants that.
No, she definitely does not want that. This if she plays, this should be a really fun game. In part because of that matchup, that it should get a lot of eyeballs. I wouldn't be surprised if she plays, if this gets some of those, we see the ratings are the highest ever on XYZ and all that. I love this prop that you have here as well. And do you like this regardless? I mean, I see you talking about Caitlin in the cap. The Kelsey Mitchell, talk to me about this cap here.
Yeah, so I've been riding Kelsey, both of these lines, both the points over and the threes overs, for the last couple of games, largely off of the hypothesis that books don't really understand how capable of coexisting Caitlin and K-Mitch are. And, I feel like I feel like I'm gathering something of a reputation of as a Caitlin hater, so let me say something nice about her. I've been very impressed the extent to which she's been able to share the ball with this team's historically leading scorer over the past 7 seasons or so. I've been impressed with the way that she's deferred to K-Mitch in certain spots. But yeah, going back to Caitlin's rookie year, K-Mitch has been coexisting with her as a volume scorer. When Caitlin struggles, Kelsey Mitchell becomes the option 1A of this team when she goes cold. And right now, Kelsey Mitchell is just definitely a hotter hand than Caitlin Clark. She has 20 plus points in her last 3 games. She has 3 or more made threes in all of those last 3 as well. Wings are 13th in defending transition. They're dead last in the league in allowing free throws to the opposition, and they're 11th in defending spot-up shooting. Again, shout out Props Madness. These 3 scoring scenarios account for 48% of Kelsey Mitchell scoring. So this is another one where the defensive spot is just super great. Obviously Dallas is kind of a flawed defensive team. They have been for, as long as I can remember, honestly. Last year was the worst of it. This year has been pretty bad, but I really like Kelsey to take advantage of that, regardless of if Caitlin plays. If Caitlin plays, I do think there's enough room for them with this Dallas defense to both go off. And then, even better if Caitlin doesn't play. As we saw tonight against the Sparks, Kelsey is just really capable of taking over.
I love it. So I thought of this as you were talking, because we had been chatting today, the last couple of days, about the Caitlin home road splits. I think a lot of folks became aware of this in the last couple of days, where on the road, Caitlin is really struggling shooting from 3 this season, and at home she's been great. However, I was listening to Ringer podcast, WNBA show over there, and Sarat brought up a really interesting point about how if you look at last season, the home road splits aren't there. In fact, she shot a little bit better on the road. However, what is an interesting thing that has carried over between the two seasons and might be getting muddled with this home road split is rest. And Caitlin does struggle with limited rest, but does very well in big rest spots. And it just so happens this season, those have overlapped where the short rest has been on the road, the long rest has been at home, and partly due with her injuries and just how the schedule is set up. This is going to be really interesting because this will be a road game where theoretically she has struggled this season, but I think we can say, I think that one's noise. If she comes back, it will be a really good rest spot. She'll have gotten a couple days off. Now, maybe she's a little dinged up, but we talked about this before when capping Caitlin. She loves a big moment. I mean, she knows how to put on a show. This game versus Paige is gonna. We just said it's gonna have eyeballs galore. I'm gonna be looking at some Caitlin alts if she does play. It's gonna be good for account health because you can be playing the like Caitlin 30 plus same game parlay. I don't think it necessarily goes against the K-Mitch. I think you just talked about in the cap. Caitlin has been able to score and get K-Mitch involved. So I think you can really be on both these. Throw a game total over in there as well. Could be a pretty interesting script. There's no Dejanay Carrington, who probably would be the Dallas defender, who could kind of give her a little bit of trouble. I'm gonna be pretty interested if we get Caitlin. If we get a Caitlin that there's not like Caitlin's pushing through to play in this. If there's not like noise like that, I'm pretty interested in her alts and what I think could be her in a big game. I'm really hoping that the road thing, people get a little bit too cute and start betting her unders in this game. We can come back over and hit an over and maybe even some of those alts. So that's how I'm going to be approaching this game. Any final thoughts on this game before we move along?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do think we could see some of that. And usually I wouldn't hold my breath to see the market betting Caitlin unders. But the one thing that makes me think that we could get a shot at that is that Underdog tweeted out those home away splits. And that kind of, that just went to everyone. Anyone who is remotely interested in betting in the WNBA got that notification. And yeah, I do really like the playing the ceiling angle with playing alts there because it does feel like if she's there, this is the moment. She's a rock star. We all know that. And I agree. It's noise. There's nothing to suggest in the sample last year that the shooting is a home road thing, unless she's suddenly developed an intense like phobia of being outside of Indianapolis. I think it is just that coincidence of rest.
Yeah, I think so too. So keep an eye on that. The home road thing, if you can take advantage of that while people are doing that and actually know that it's more of a rest thing, which again, shout out the Ringer WNBA show. That was a really, really good find from them.
Yep.
Let's go to Connecticut, Seattle. This is where we have our really fun overlapping one. This was so funny because you texted me something about this. I was like, oh, so you were like in the sheet and you saw what I did. And you're like, what? No. So we both came to this kind of fun little kind of reverse Corey, as we like to call it here, reverse correlated parlay with Skylar in particular. And what we think, again, the spread's like 19, very decent chance of a blowout. I'm guessing you came to kind of the same conclusions as I did when looking through Skylar's game logs.
Yeah, no, exactly. I was looking at those, I believe, 2 games that they've cleared by 20 plus this season. I think her minutes dropped to like 27 to 29 from mid 30s in both of those. And so, I kind of had the thought that it's like, okay, well, other than the minutes, Connecticut is a pretty barbecue chicken matchup for Skylar. So if they don't blow them out, she is going to shoot over this prop. But if they do take care of business in the first half and in the third quarter, and she just sits that last quarter and a half or so of the game, this should be a pretty easy under at 19.5. And so, yeah, I just had the thought, why not just add the spread on there if we're counting on it anyway to cash the bet. Talk to me about the assist angle that you found, though.
Yeah, let me add really quick to yours.
Sure.
Basically just repeating what you said, but in those 2 blowout games, she scored 10 and then 15, and those are 2 of her 3 lowest field goal attempt games of the season. On the flip side, though, 2 of her 4 highest assist totals were in those games, even in the sub 30-minute outings. Like you shouted out that her minutes were lower. She still got pretty good assist totals in those. I think it was like a 7 and a 10 or something like that. It makes perfect sense with her approach to the game. If you watch Skylar, she's definitely a type who in a close game is going to force the action, drive to the hoop a little bit more. In a game where they're up 15 or 20, she's going to be perfectly content to create for her teammates. Connecticut, for all their weaknesses, actually does a decent job limiting 3-point attempts too. So I think, if we get her probably not wanting to force the action to the basket quite as much and more likely to blow up, not as many threes going up. It's the perfect little script for her to not be looking to score, look to create for her teammates. I'm going to pull up and see if I can find this same game parlay in a couple of books while you talk through. Do you have any final thoughts in this game, or do you want to go to your Valkyries cap while I look through for this same game parlay?
Yeah, real quick on this one. I do want to say also I like Seattle alts. I don't know how if they're going to be like super long and juicy like people like for alts, but this should be a bad game. That's my main cap on it. It should be a bad game. I did want to riff a little bit on you talking about Connecticut's good 3-point defense, because this is something that Calvin and I have actually talked about with bad defensive teams having those low opponent 3-point attempt counts. And there are a lot of very good perimeter defenders on this Connecticut roster. JC Sheldon comes to mind. But I think what it is more is that teams don't have to take threes against Connecticut. You have Tina Charles, who at this stage in her career, legend, absolute legend. No disrespect meant. A bit of a turnstile at this point of her career. You kind of can just drive into the paint and get what you want against Connecticut. Again, there are a lot of great interior defenders on this team too. I mean, like Olivia Nelson-Adota is a great interior defending four. But it just kind of feels like teams don't need to take threes more than it is that they're defending the three well. I always like just kind of finding those narrative angles, because like maybe also you find a good like interior defending and 3-point under, like interior scoring and 3-point under reverse Corey in there. Like find like I'm thinking of like a Brittany Sykes type against Connecticut. You might want to take a points over threes under look to get that reverse juice.
Yeah, I love that. Looking at the first book that I went to, it's not quite as reverse Corey as we normally like. Usually sometimes on these, when you do the inverse correlation, it really kind of it like bugs out and gives you a real nice number. So if we do the Storm minus 19.5, the spread is now 19.5. Skylar under 19.5 points, and Skylar to record 6+ assists. You get plus 365. It's definitely not terrible. I thought it would be a tiny bit longer. Well, I say throughout the day we keep poking around and seeing if it pops up at other books.
I feel like we can do better.
I think we can do better. So we'll wait to log that one. If you hear this early, go ahead and do what you can with that. But we'll be looking throughout the day.
Yeah, I feel like I would be, for anyone looking, I would be probably targeting like 600-700 range for this.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go to this last game here. The Valkyries are hosting the Sky. Valkyries, man, they're so good, man. I'm with you on the side here. I had it as like a heavy lean. You've got it as a best bet. So why don't you talk through your logic, and if there's anything missing, which there probably won't be, I'll tap on in the very end.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is kind of similar to what I was saying with the New York and Phoenix cap, where it's very much so a vibes bet and like about where these teams are at in their seasons right here, where like the Valks look so exceptional recently. They've been absolute god killers. They almost upset the Liberty last game. And so there is potential for letdown there. I should qualify it by saying that. But the Sky have looked really rough all season. I think that they'll look especially rough in this game, adjusting to not having Camila Cardoso for the first time this season, especially coming off a game where Camila Cardoso just recorded her career high for them. They really do a lot with that post presence. Obviously, you still have Angel Reese in the post, but they're used to having those two dominant bigs. Honestly, it comes down to the Sky are even worse than the market thought that they would be this year, and the Valks are so much better than the market thought that they would be this year. And obviously, both of those things were over a month into the season. Like, we're beginning to catch up in both directions, but I still feel like at home, the Valkyries are going to clear the Sky by at least double digits. I mean, like, I feel like I could see them coming away with like a 16+ win or something if anyone also wanted to look at alts for this.
Yeah, I honestly don't have too much to add. I had the Cardoso note as well. I do think that's, Chicago, they lost Courtney Vandersloot. That hurt. In the offseason, they lost Candy Card. The offense just doesn't really have all that many weapons. And, Angel Reese was starting to kind of develop this really nice post interplay with Cardoso. She was getting a lot of assists, like kind of post to post, big to big. That was great to see. Now, Elizabeth Williams is great, but also, now they're backup big. She was great in that role. Now we'll see what she can do starting, and then the backup isn't going to be as good. Golden State just kind of keeps winning. Even last game, they didn't beat the Liberty, but they were right there in the game. Natalie Nakase, I think I mentioned it every episode, but I think she's up in the top 2 or 3 coaches in the league already. She's just done an outstanding job.
Yeah, I mean, she's doing something so historically unprecedented because, I mean, we talked about the Valks prospects going into the season, and obviously you and I were all over, their win total under. You and Dana were all over their win total under. Every capper I know was looking for every way they could to fade this team going into the season, because if you look historically at expansion teams, they tend to be garbage, and they tend to win a handful of games. They tend to mostly get run out of their own arena. They've developed, maybe I would say, I don't want to put them above Phoenix or anything, but they're at least a top 3 or top 4 home crowd support in the league. Their home court advantage is so strong. Valhalla, as they've been calling it, which is so good, so funny. Really Valhalla at Chase Center is so loud. They have, I think, the number 1 average attendance in the league, which is, again, so crazy for an expansion team. So shout out to their entire organization. Obviously Natalie is amazing, but that front office is also one of the best in the WNBA, I think, already. I'm so impressed. I feel like I also, and maybe I should caution by saying that this with the spread, I feel like now I'm looking for every opportunity to bet on the Valks I can, just to recoup the losses I'm going to have on their under win totals when they clear it in 3 days or whatever.
Yeah, it's gonna be nuts. I bought out, and I'm just rooting for him every game now. I was like, I got a decent middle. I think that middle is going to get obliterated. I think they're going to go well over that original 15.5, which we thought was a comically bad line.
Yeah.
But it turns out Nakase is a god. So
good for the books. Tip my hat to them that they had more respect for Natalie Nakase than we did.
100%. That's definitely what they knew, and not that they were clueless in terms of anything else. I had a couple of futures that I wanted to give out really quick. Speaking of teams that surprised us a little bit, I was a little bit lower on Phoenix to start the season, and I was definitely a little bit lower after the early news to Kalia Copper's her injury news to start the season. Alyssa Thomas has missed time. I'm just incredibly impressed with this team. They're now 3-0 with Kalia Copper back. They're likely to add DeWanna Bonner, who would actually be a perfect fit as kind of this wing scorer. But they have found all these pieces that have given this team a really strong defensive identity here. I think there's really a couple of interesting ways to play this. You can do it, Phoenix to reach the semifinals. I think you guys gave that out in Bet You Wins Discord. I like the ceiling here. I think at plus 1,600, it's not like a hammer, but I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of title stuff for Phoenix. We came in the season with a little bit of Minnesota, a little bit of New York, thinking that the aces were pretty mispriced. That has proven accurate. I think because of that, have a little bit of leeway here in my portfolio to add a little bit of Phoenix title. Akoa Makani has been one of my favorite players. Loxa, Westbell, they've got players who I think are really going to translate to the postseason. And then their big 3, when you get to the postseason, having a big 3 at that level, Sably basically top 10 in win shares, AT tied for the league lead in assists per game. We're seeing what Copper can do when she's come back, and credit to Tibbetts there on the coaching side of things. I think he's done an incredible job with this team. I'm going to sprinkle a little Phoenix. Are you as high on the Mercury's potential ceiling as I am, or you sitting out quite this level of bet?
Well, I'm not going to add on Phoenix because, and I'm going to take a victory lap here. I bought in on their title future the second that they signed. I think it was Satu and not Alyssa or Alyssa Thomas. It was one of the two of them. But yeah, if you're in the Bet You Wins Discord, you should already be on this. There's my little pimping my CLV for the pod here. But no, I definitely think that there's a lot of value at this plus 1,600 at this point. I mean, they've been incredible. I think that the best is to come with them, with Ka coming in. I'm curious about the Damana Bonner of it all. I'm a little bit wary, just because I know that, and I'm not sure that it's going to happen. Just because I know Phoenix has expressed that they're a little bit hesitant to bring her on, a little bit hesitant to kind of mess with the chemistry that they've got going on the court, off the court. Obviously, we all love AT and Dawana. We want to see them together, but sometimes when there's this existing dynamic and then you bring someone's partner in, I mean, we've all been there with friend groups, right? Like, we've all been there where everything's chill and then somebody starts bringing their partner around and everything, and suddenly they're different and everything's weird. And so I am kind of side-eyeing that. I do think everyone's professional and they'd be able to navigate whatever off the court and interpersonally if Dawana did come on. And, she's a legend of this franchise. She deserves to retire with them. She deserves to have a statue built, as our friend Owen Penn said, outside of Phoenix's arena. But yeah, all that being said, Phoenix has been one of the surprises of the season. All of their role players are so impressive. Akoa Makani, I mean, more than any perhaps, but they've honestly been kind of like a quasi-expansion team in their own right, a quasi-overperforming expansion team in their own right, with all the players that they've brought in playing major minutes that have never seen a WNBA roster before, or seldom seen a WNBA roster before. So they're, in addition to the Valks, like a real feel-good story.
Yeah, it really shows like the talent evaluation right now. Like there are little gaps here and there, and there's certain franchises that have really are doing really strong job at, and others I think, not to name names, but Chicago may be struggling a little bit more on that front, and it kind of, in Dallas, it kind of tells on itself in the teams that perform. And you're like, man, that's like, I'm surprised with that roster they're playing so well versus I'm surprised with that roster they're playing so poorly, and I think you see those patterns emerge. The Sparks, to name another, where it's like, man, they got the win tonight. They came back to win, but like at times it's like, how is this team not good? Like you should be able to fill out those 7, 8, 9. There's so many. It's such a small league. You should be able to find those players to fill it out.
Sparks would have the best supporting cast in the league if it was 2021.
Yeah,
like I look at some of the role players on this team, and again, no disrespect to these players, they're still contributing players. They still deserve to be rostered, but I'm looking at like Emma Cannon, Shea Petty, Mercedes Russell, all great players, all deserve to still be in the league. But it's like, it kind of begs like, did the front office kind of forget what year it is?
It's tough if that's like your 6, 7, 8. That could be like one of them is like your 8 or 9, but it's a lot if that's your full bench. And I have 2 MVP plays. It's really actually like one and a tiny little sprinkle, but with Nafisa Collier and Caitlin Clark missing, these games here, we're going to get to some sort of a tipping point where at least it's going to have to be a conversation. The sprinkle is on a player who's actually currently leading the league in win shares. It's Alicia Gray. We talked about her under earlier on. And now this was a little bit longer when I first found it and wanted to bring it to the podcast. It's now 125 to 1, which is still a really long number.
Yep.
I think that's fair. I think there is some regression coming for Gray. I think she will be like top 5 in win shares by the end of the season. I don't think she's going to lead the league in win shares. She's, if you look per minute, she's more like 5th. I think that's probably around where she ends the season. But listen, she's playing outstanding. She's 5th in points per game. She's collecting 5 rebounds, second best of her career. 4 assists, career high. Some of the on-off stuff is really impressive with her. She got 127 offensive rating, 102 defensive rating from Basketball Reference. So she's really genuinely putting together. Like if the season ended today, I think she could have a very good case at MVP. It's just there's a lot of season left, and she isn't as outstanding as she is. She's like the 10th best player in the league, not a top 3, and it's really hard to win an MVP. You can finish top 5. It's really hard to win one at that level. So I don't mind a little sprinkle at 125 to 1. But then the other one that I think really does have some legs here is Breanna Stewart. I saw our friend Miles, was talking about this the other day. I mean, she is shooting some of her best like field goal percentage of her career, despite struggling from 3. She's really like inside the arc has been absolutely outstanding. She looks, whatever that surgery was, I was a little nervous before the season that it has worked very well. She looks really good. We know the Liberty are going to be either at the top of or very near the top of the standings. I like her for defensive player of the year as well. I'm kind of confused by that market as a whole right now. But the longer Jonquel Jones is out, that's going to help her rebounds. It's going to help her scoring a little bit as well, even if it kind of hurts maybe the team's success a little bit. But with Fee and Caitlin kind of missing games here and there, I just want to get a little sprinkle on Stewie as well at 25-1 out there right now. I think that's a pretty good number. I think these, at least I think you're on Stewie and maybe on Gray as well. Are these looks that you're looking to put a little bit on?
I am on Stewie a little bit. I haven't put it out officially, but I did do a little sprinkle there. And I do like that look. You know, they're going to be the 1 seed, the 2 seed, or absolute worst case, like terrible scenario, the 3rd seed. And I do agree that the opportunity with JJ out for Stewie to kind of fill out the stat sheet, because, you know, she really wasn't rebounding much to open the season, like surprisingly not at all, when she's always been like a great rebounder throughout her career. So yeah, I do think statistically she begins to catch up a little bit, and the efficiency in scoring has been there all season. I definitely think that, you know, she's Brianna Stewart. She's always going to be in the MVP race. She's always going to be there. She, coming into the season, didn't really have as much buzz around her, just because I feel like she kind of sizzled in the playoffs a little bit, despite the Liberty winning. And, you know, I feel like the narrative was all like Fee or Caitlin, and it still is. But I definitely think that Stewie is worth having a position on. I really struggle with getting there on Leash, and that's hard for me because she's absolutely one of my favorite players, one of my favorite people in the league. She is hilarious. She is so talented on the court. She has been exceptional this season. As I said, I've been spamming her overs. But she's not traditionally considered the star of the Dream. She's traditionally considered the second best player on the Dream. Ryan is traditionally considered the star. And I feel like for voters, it's a little bit tough to shake that, even though Leash has been demonstrably better statistically this season. And even though she is the veteran and she is more of the leader, you know, I feel bad even comparing them, because they're such good friends and, you know, so fun to watch as friends on TikTok and stuff. But I do think they are very much so a 1A, 1B scenario, and that's always going to be a knock against either of them out there winning an award like MVP. There's another name, though, I do want to mention, and, you know, we were talking about her a bit with the title future that you gave out, and I also, this was put into my mind, I'm mentioning him again, by Owen Pence, and I want to give him a shout out for that. Why not Alyssa Thomas?
Oh, apologies. I was on mute there. Yeah, I mean, the stats are there. The game, she has kind of the game's miss problem a little bit as well. But if she can stay on the court the rest of the season, then suddenly the game's miss evaporate a little bit. She's, you know, tied for the league lead in assists. Phoenix is playing outstanding, and she does have the pedigree of. I think a lot of people think that she should have maybe won that one MVP that Stewie did end up winning 2 years ago. That plays a role sometimes with in these things where it's like, oh man, Alyssa Thomas, we have, like, she's a generational star who needs an MVP. That's like kind of the narrative push behind the award. So I don't mind that as well.
Yeah, I'm not. Don't have the numbers in front of me, but I remember looking at it the other day and thinking it looked a little bit long just for a little sprinkle, just to have a position on it. Obviously, you know, it would be hypocritical for me to hold Ryan against Leash and not mention that, you know, Kalia Copper and Sachi Sabli are also superstars, and also that might be a little bit of a knock against Alyssa Thomas, but she's the one that's been there before, and she's the one that's been closest to the MVP. She's the veteran. She's the engine that makes their very, very fun offensive system work. I see it. You know, if Phoenix continues the trajectory that they're on, and if they finish in that top 3, I really see her getting some votes. I wish that you could do over under like MVP point votes.
100%. Yeah, I agree, because that would be a way that, you know, we don't want to always pick on Caitlin, but to fade Caitlin in the market a little bit, because Caitlin isn't playing like an MVP right now, but she's getting priced as, you know, almost like second in that. Be great if we could, you know, be able to vote who finishes second or who finishes top 5, because that's where we would really be able to get at that. So Okay, we have gone a little bit long, but I want to get super quick. I'm going to ask you like a question each because we were talking a little bit before the podcast, and there are some fun things with the international ball going on right now. For Eurobasket, why don't you tell me just who's left? And I think you had like one, maybe two props. So can you do those? Tell us who's left quickly and give maybe one or two props.
Yes, I can. So yeah, with Eurobasket right now, we're in the semifinals. So there are 8 teams still over there technically, but it is the semis. Only 4 of them are left in contention for the tournament winner. That's France and Spain, who are playing each other tomorrow at 9:30, or today at 9:30 if you're listening to it. They already played, possibly. And then at 12:30, Italy versus Belgium. And then Turkey is playing Germany, and Lithuania is playing Czechia in like the concession bracket. We don't really need to talk about that. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that we're gearing up, unless if they're, Belgium is favored by 11, France is favored by 9 tomorrow. They are the likely finals matchup, and that is probably the finals matchup I would have picked coming into the tournament. Belgium is obviously an international powerhouse. Emma Niesemann, Julie Van Loo, Julie Alemán, Carol Litskins are all excellent players, and Mike Thibault has been coaching them extremely passionately. I've seen that man get into so many arguments with refs in the past few days. You would think that he was Belgian.
And I know you've been killing it on the props. Do you have a fun prop for the semis or even the consolation semis?
Yeah, I'm looking at Justa Josade from Lithuania, who, if for those who watched the draft this year, is a Golden State Valkyrie. They took her with their pick in the draft. But she's been a stash this season playing in France and preparing for Eurobasket, and probably should come over and be a rookie next year. They have her listed at 13.5, with the juice pretty significantly to the over, but I would still take it. It's listed at like minus 160, minus 165. Hopefully it doesn't move too much before people can listen to this, but I would still take it like at normal juice at 14.5. I would set this line at 15.5 personally. I do think it's kind of deflated because Lithuania is coming off of being knocked out by France, who have one of the best defenses of any international team in the world. And she was held to single digits in that game, unsurprisingly. I shouldn't say unsurprisingly because I lost her over in that game. But it was set at 15.5 then, and I was willing to take the over at 15.5. Versus one of the best defenses in the world. It's at 13.5 versus Czechia, which is, no knock to them, but they're nothing special defensively. Yeah. So yeah, I would play that to probably 14.5 minus 130 just to Josita over 13.5 points. If I pronounce that wrong, really sorry.
Well, I was going to say, since it's the audio format for the most part, is that the last name? It's spelled like Jocye? Is that how you spell it?
It's Jocyte, and there's like a little accent over the E, like little circle accent.
Perfect. All right, and then super, super, super quick, because now we're pushing up on the time limit. But AmeriCup is going to be starting soon. You mentioned Camila Cardoso's headed off. I just wanted you to shout out, because I was like, oh, this sounds super fun. If you're a fan of women's college basketball, do you still have that AmeriCup USA roster up? Because it's like a who's who of every really fun women's college basketball player. So we were trying to find where you can watch it. It's some weird streaming thing, but at least pay attention, because you want to rattle off the roster there real quick.
Yeah, if you want to watch it, go to like the AmeriCup FIBA website. You'll immediately get like a little pop-up ad to sign up for this streaming service. I'm not going to give them free advertising on your podcast, but for Eurobasket, there was like an under $9 pass to watch the whole tournament. I'm sure they'll offer something similar for AmeriCup. That Team USA team for this tournament is Reagan Beers, Michaela Blakes, Madison Booker, Audi Crooks, Joyce Edwards, Kenna Hidalgo, and Olivia Miles, which in itself is hilarious and entertaining, and I cannot wait to see them on the court together again. Flaujae Johnson, Yana Neepkins, Kennedy Smith, Hannah Stolke, and Grace Van Sloot, and it's a great roster.
It's an amazing. That's such a fun. I don't even follow the college level all that closely. I think there are maybe 2 names I didn't know there. It's basically who's who, best players in USA women's college basketball. So that should be really fun to see. Dani, awesome. This was a blast. You have any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Nope. Thanks for having me on, even though I was your post-ultimate choice. Had a great time. And yeah, listen to Wuckets, y'all.
We'll have to name this like the post ultimate episode or something, but hopefully it's not the actual post ultimate episode. So if you would like to tail some of the bets we discussed today, I believe those will be in the quickslip link. Like I said, we don't have David Payne today, but we miss him, so hopefully those are there. But it should be in the episode description. Otherwise, download the Action Network app. Obviously, I'll be posting these plays. I'll have posted these plays in there, and obviously posting plays all the time in there. Like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And if you are listening to a podcast version, rate and review is the thing to do. Thank you to all the Action Side team. It's not David today, but give her a go on YouTube. And for Dani and myself, the post-ultimate duo, let's get buckets.